Good morning and welcome to Office Hours, the show where we answer your technical media production questions every single week. Courtney, let's get right to it.
All right, coming in first from chilly Madison, Indiana, Roscoe Jones asked, could office hours help others train for contentious Zoom meetings?
Go ahead, Ronnie.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of the things that we are doing here and I'm preparing for in the pre-show, during the show, and the feedback we get from other panelists and, of course, the back-end crew is really helpful. I remember being a user that lurked in the show and just listened to it and was kind of amazed of how amazing all the panelists were always looking and how they use the systems. And I was constantly amazed at how this was being done. And when I started looking a little bit more behind the scenes, I understood why. I remember one of the old guys was kind of training me both in after hours. After hours is basically a 24/7 Zoom meeting that goes on all the time that anyone can take part in. I'll let the host explain how they can do that. And I was in after hours for hours and was kind of trained by these professional radio and TV people and in how to set up, how to be and how to respond to things, and just basic things as muting, unmuting, and having a good sounding microphone, etc. So I'm pretty sure that if you are moving into this field or type of meetings and meetings that are kind of heavy to be in because of all the things that are not professional, I think Office Hours is a really good community to be learning these very important smaller things that you didn't even think existed before you are actually exposed to them and see what is actually changing your entire broadcast from front lights, microphones, camera positions, etc., etc. So there's a lot of knowledge in this community that definitely can help. And we are actually referring our clients when they are going to be a part of some broadcast or production we do. We tend to show them how we are doing it in Office Hours to let them know what a really professional setup should look like and how to be and how to appear on that broadcast. So that is learning these people a lot, and we haven't put them into After Hours yet, but maybe that is the next step.
Courtney?
Yeah, here in Office Hours, we use Makana to actually control the flow of this meeting. It's rarely contentious, but there are tools, and they have commendas available to large organizations that have to conduct meetings via Zoom. I know I'm a member of a union which conducts now hybrid meetings. So in order to have a quorum, there are certain rules that go on to vote on union business. So they have to, there are certain rules that apply to the hybrid meeting, so that if you come in via Zoom, you have to keep your camera on, you have to keep your sound muted so that only you can hear it, because they don't want the union business going outside the room or for others to listen in. And the control of mute and the person who is running the meeting is a host. And we use the tools in Zoom, and since it is a hybrid, there are people in the actual meeting in a location, and there are people online. And so if people have questions or for the board or something to present to the union, the floor to present a motion or something, they go back and forth. They alternate between the person inside the room and a person outside the room on the Zoom meeting. And the person who runs the meeting is then in control of unmuting. And you can only be unmuted by the host. So those tools are, and of course you must raise your hand if you want to speak and get in line. And the queue is handled by Zoom. So those kind of little tools might be interesting to have in a meeting for how to use the Zoom tools to control the flow of a meeting if you don't have the advantage of using Makana.
Yeah, those are all great points. And also to bring in the chat as well, Guy Cochran was saying that we should record a video of like the entire flow of how things are set up. And I think that's a great idea. I don't know when we would be able to do that, but I think it's probably worth discussing in the future for sure. Let's go to the next question.
Next question comes in from Springfield, Virginia. Jason Hunter asked, or has a statement, Bill's interview with Ian Anderson was great on Tuesday evening's show. Could have been twice as long, and Ian Anderson's book, AI for Creative Production, was released yesterday. Does Office Hours Global do repeat guests? I'd love to hear more conversation between them.
You know, Jason, that's a great comment. I haven't actually had a chance to listen to this, but Bill is definitely a good interviewer, very engaging. So I will definitely put that on my list of places to or things to have a look at this weekend. Have we had repeat guests? I'm drawing a blank. I don't know, but I don't see any reason why we wouldn't bring somebody back on. Actually, no, now that I think of it, Laura from Shure, we've had her on a couple of times. To talk about Shure products and a few other things as well. So we definitely have repeat guests for sure. Let's go to the next question.
Next one is another one from Roscoe Jones in Madison, Indiana. For a two-person interview show, what angle would you have the chairs or seats at? Would you have them face each other or have them obtuse or open angle like Carson and others use? And he has a YouTube link.
Chris Sabato.
I think it kind of depends on what kind of interview it is, right? And so with kind of the obtuse angle, like Carson, it's like more open, it's more it seems more friendly, less possibly contentious. If the interviewee is part of the subject too, right? Like Carson is a personality, and so when you're turning to watch that interview, you're turning in as much to watch him as you are the guest, right? And so he is part of that. Where if you're kind of got that face to face where you're kind of looking over the shoulder, the interview is kind of obfuscated a little bit. They're not the subject of the interview, and so you can focus more on the subject. That also can, like, if it's hard hitting questions, that style might be more appropriate. So I think it just depends on what kind of interview it is.
And Ronnie.
I would say if you have an audience, so if this is on a stage and you have a live audience that is dictating a lot, because then you have to have the person's kind of towards the audience as well. So that defines, and we probably would end up with something like 120 degrees opposed to 180. If this is just a studio production where we do recording or even live interviews, I would go a little bit more, maybe 160, 170, still have a little angle so that you have the body a little bit towards the front of the stage, and then just have them look a little bit to the side so you have the nice angles. And this is also, if you need to have the shoulder shot where you see the interviewer or the interview is also a part of the shot with double cameras, it probably need to be fine adjusted. But if there is a live audience, the live audience normally takes precedence, and we have to have a sharper angle, and people are looking more into the audience as well. So it depends. If you have full control, I would just use every possible test to see what angle is the optimum, and of course stay away from swinging chairs. So chairs that are rotating, it's normally not a good idea. Put them in a fixed chair, and normally have a chair with the low back so that doesn't show behind the shoulders. It's also a good idea, and of course use a lot of lighting and have the microphones on booms above their heads. That's just a few of the tricks that we tend to use.
I don't know, Ronnie, might be fun to spin the guest around a few times if they're annoying. Chris Knobloch.
Yeah, I have to second a lot of what Chris and Ronnie was saying. We just recently conducted a week-long in-person event with up to 900 people, and this was the first time that they used more of like the general arc. It was a 5-person panel, and they found that it was vastly more conversational. They found that just by that they could talk to each other. Granted, we were doing IMAG for everybody that was in the room, but just having that general arc can really kind of open things up and have just have a more conversation. And even if they're in the audience and perhaps they're not on the panel, they feel more included than if it's like, just a 60-minute style back and forth.
And Courtney.
Yeah, it depends on whether there's an audience or not. Like Ronnie was saying, typically if there's an audience, the Carson setup where the two seats are, there's a seat beside the desk, and then they're angled just slightly below 180 degrees to maybe about 100 degrees. That way, the audience has a clear shot eye line to both people, and the cameras don't get in the way. And with those shows, your cameras have to work a little farther back, and what you end up with is these profile shots. There's George Goebel. Look at that. Anyway, he and Carson then end up in profile shots, so you never really see a three-quarter or a head-on shot of either the interviewers because the cameras can't come all the way around because they'd be in each other's shot. The 60 Minutes interviews, they face them at each other, and then they position the cameras just outside the line so that they're not crossing the line, so that the person's eye line is just off camera to one side and the other person's is just off camera to the other side. So that gives you a good idea of where they are in relationship to each other. And since there's no audience, you don't have to worry about the cameras occluding the view of the talent that is on stage. So the general interview stuff has always been that way, with a desk with a person seated behind it and a chair sitting to the right with a slightly cocked toward the interviewer. And that's what we've gotten used to over the years.
Next question.
Comes in from some guy named Alexander Knight in Port Coquitlam, British Columbia. I've been asked to build a studio from scratch in a basement, multi-room, but the main large space would be for podcast or Zoom meetings. Similar rooms for editing bay, and I have photos to share and have concerns about the ceiling height. He's thrown a Cochrane.
I have, yeah. I'm gonna show you two photos. They're the same. It's photos of the room here that we're talking about from two different angles. Let me just pull it up here. So this is the space. So this is a basement suite. So previously, this space, it belongs to my client. So they had two tenants down here, and there were a couple of bedrooms. It has its own kitchen, a nice sized kitchen with shower, bathroom. There's a big storage room as well. So plenty of space, but this was the main long rectangular room. I believe it's 11 by 22 that we would have the podcast space in. So, and I'm still thinking about, what I'm going to do with the show, whether it's going to be in the round, or am I going to have people sitting on a couch, or am I going to have them facing each other? Similar to actually the last question, it was sort of relevant to what I've been dealing with anyways. So this is the space from the floor to the tallest part of the ceiling. It's about 8 feet. So I'm a little concerned about, I'm going to want to put fixtures on the ceiling. I'd like to install a lighting grid on here. But some of these fixtures that I'm looking at putting on here are going to be fairly large. So I don't know if that's going to be a little awkward. So I just wanted to kind of go around, get everyone's thoughts on what they think about the space, whether they think it's going to be conducive to having a studio in. I prefer if the ceilings were a little bit taller, but it is what it is. I think there's potential for the space. The goal is to not only turn it into a space that my client can have his podcast in, but they want to turn it into a space that can be rented out. They've asked me to be the engineer that would basically be there, but I don't have to be there full time. So my goal is to basically architect a space that can be shared with other people, that they can actually go in there and kind of just one button press, turn on the cameras and record, and everything will be working properly, and then they can just take the recorded files and take it home with them. So anyways, that's one angle. Here's the other angle from this way. You can see the room comes with a TV already mounted on the wall there. I think that TV actually might be useful. I'm just thinking for any kind of remote participants. If you're doing a Zoom meeting, whether you're doing a podcast or maybe a corporate thing, or you can make this an insert studio for broadcast, somebody just sit here, have a little camera above the TV. There's a fireplace here. Obviously, this place is going to be acoustically treated. So, but anyways, just wanted to share this and get some of your thoughts. Go ahead, Ronnie.
I have a few rooms that are similar, and I actually have the same problem here. There is not enough height to actually have a professional grid with big, large hanging fixtures. So what I've been thinking about is something that Alex Lindsay showed months back. Is this example where they use this big China ball fabric, and from the pictures you shown us now, I think it could be a good idea to just have the light fixtures above in the ceiling where the light fixtures are now, but have a small square grid or a round grid, and just have a lot of LED fixtures on above that, and just hang the fabric underneath them, so to create a big kind of reflector, or actually just a softbox effect on the entire ceiling, and have the entire ceiling just light up. And then you can of course use floor standing extra lights if you need to have some accent lights in the scene as well. So I think that is a good use for that specific light technique.
Okay, all right, something to think about. And Courtney.
Well, just taking a look at it, the scene you had there, acoustically, you might have some problems with the two parallel walls at the long ends of the room. One of them having a mirror on it, and the other one having glass windows.
Super reflective.
Yeah, so I would put something other than shears in front of those glass windows, unless you're going to use light coming through them. Put some heavy curtains on there that are bunched up quite a bit to kill the reflection off that. And I would cover the mirror. Because you don't want reflections of the lights coming back at odd angles out of that mirror that are unwanted, and you don't want reflections of the sound coming that way. It looks like they've got vinyl floor tile, vinyl paneling, or maybe it's wood. These days,
I believe it's wood.
Vinyl plank. Simulating wood, but whatever it is, it should probably have some covering like you have there, maybe even a little more than just.
Well, what I was thinking of doing, Courtney, is this. I was actually thinking about doing pipe and drape. So from this side of the wall all the way here, I was thinking of just having a big thick curtain that you could just pull all the way back. Because you're absolutely right. Glass fireplace, anything glass and anything hard surfaces, I find especially glass fireplaces. Like I have a glass fireplace right behind me here where these bass traps are. Because that thing, if I pulled these bass traps out, you can hear my voice ringing and bouncing off of that thing.
Also, if there's an empty room, like you see those doors that were open to the neighboring room, you want to keep those doors closed because sound will go in there, especially if it's a bathroom that's covered with tile. That's like a little echo chamber, and the sound goes in there, bounces around 4 times, comes back out, and then you have a really good delay. So acoustically, there's that issue. An 8-foot ceiling is really, I don't think it's tall enough to put a grid in. And then once you hang, because the grid is going to have to be, you're going to have offsets, room to put a C-clamp up there on the grid and get it
probably going to have to hang down
to hook it down. So it's going to have to be 6 or 7 inches down. And then you got the height of the light. So that could be another 10 to 15 inches. And then you're going to be down, if people standing up, they're going to hit their heads on the lights, or they're going to be in the lights in a wide shot. So I don't think you really have room to put a grid on. You might be able to hang some panel lights, some of those big horizontal panel lights that are used to be recessed into the roof, but hang them one side down so that they're directional, or maybe at a 45-degree angle.
The problem is every time I look at DMX, because I want to have everything DMX controlled, and I'm going to put all the DMX stuff on my network so I can control it with Luminaire on an iPad. But all the large, I don't want to.
All DMX control lights are really not designed for low-profile mounting, though.
That's the problem, is they're all huge. Yeah. And all the thin LED panels are too small. I don't want to put, I know you can get a newer LED panel that's 18 inches, but I'd really like to put larger. I'd really like to have a really nice, beautiful, soft light that wraps around people. So I'm really gonna have to think about that. Maybe the silk thing, like Ronnie was suggesting, maybe that's going to be an option where I have that on the ceiling to kind of help diffuse the light a little bit. Because I think you're right. By the time I put the grid up there, 6 or 7 inches from the ceiling, and then I put like even my Amaran light that I've got above me, which is for even in my small little apartment here, a 2x2 seems rather large to have hanging off a grid in a room with an 8-foot ceiling. So really going to have to think hard about that. Go ahead, Ronnie. Do you want to come back in?
Yeah, just a small question. Is there a budget limit to this? Because there are a lot of these new now. So there's a lot of these new brands like Amaran, etc., that are creating these mats, which is basically just a big surface with a lot of either surface-mounted LEDs, etc. And some of the newer ones are really, really powerful and really, really thin. So that is might something you could think of adding on top. Mm-hmm. So just mount it to the ceiling and then have a fabric below it to make a softbox.
Yeah. Yeah, the F20, the one that I'm using, I just remember, I forgot how thin it is actually, but because it has an external power supply, and it is, let me just see if I can pull it up here. 1 second. It is the Amaran F22X, and this one is DMX controllable. You do have to buy an adapter separately to control it. It's a USB-C to DMX. This is probably what you're talking about, right? These little flexible mats. It does come with a frame though. So when you mount it, even the frame itself is actually not that thick. Like if you were looking at it from the side, you can see here, it's really only like maybe that might be 3 inches thick. So I think you're right. Maybe a bunch of these flush with the ceiling might be a good idea. Maybe 4 of these on the ceiling grouped together would give me at least enough light top down, and then I probably will need some fill lights for their faces to light them properly. So I'm gonna have to, but I think that's a good idea. Something like one of those flexible mats. Courtney, you wanted to jump back in?
Yeah, I was just going to say there's these, you can get these in different, this one's the wrong color. This is daylight bright white, but you can get them in different color temperatures. These flush mount LED edge lit ceiling lights, they're designed to flush mount into a ceiling like this. But you could do them and just hang, since they're long and broad and they're edge lit, they're flat and low profile. You could hang one edge, anchor one edge to the ceiling, and then cant it down at about 45 degrees so it becomes directional and gives you a nice soft light from overhead in one direction. And then plug it into a DMX-controlled dimmer. So that the dimmer, and you have to make sure that you get dimmable LED lights, so that they have to be, most of them these days are, so that you could dim the current going into it, and that way you can control the level, and you don't have to worry about them changing color temperature as they dim, because LEDs don't do that.
Okay, and Ronnie.
Yeah, these are the things I was looking at lately. They are really new to the market, so that's this Power Slim series. They have all the different sizes and up to 4x2. So the only thing is, and that's the reason why I was talking about budget, they are a little bit on the pricey side, but they also have CRMX, so you can remote control them wirelessly, and they also have DMX inside them. I'll put a link to them in the chat, so you can have a look at that and discuss that with the client and see if the budgets are there. But these are really cool.
That's cool. Well, I'm thinking, I haven't actually they've got money. We haven't actually discussed a ceiling yet, but I think by the time I add the cameras, the computers and everything, probably going to be into it for at least 30 grand, but I'd like to see if we can maybe get a $50,000 budget. I don't want to go too crazy, because we got to really write a business plan and try to see, like, how are we going to market this? The goal is to get people in town that want to record podcasts, that don't have the gear, that don't have the knowledge, that want to just go to a place that has a turnkey solution. So I got to think about that. But I think at least with 50 grand, we should be able to build something pretty pretty decent in that space. But the Pavo, then that's Nanlite, Ronnie, the ones that you were just showing.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, I'll take a look at that. Well, those are all great ideas. I will go back to the drawing board, and I may this week, possibly on Monday, stream into after hours from that space if people want to take a look at that. So I will report back on. I'll post on Discord when I'm going to do that. Just a reminder, if you'd like to ask questions on this show, you can always do that using Makana, our Q&A system. If you don't know how to do that, you got to be part of our community. There's lots of chat. And you can post those questions, vote on them, which helps drive the run of show. And you can go to officehours.global/join. That's officehours.global/join, and we'll send you an email with all the information that you need. Let's go to the next question.
Next one comes in from Paul Vall, who's in Austin, Texas. Paul asks, any suggestions for a vehicle-based weather cam, or can you use a dash cam output for this?
Chris.
I'm not sure what you're trying to do, right? Are you just trying to get some video from outside the vehicle into a traditional format, SDI, HDMI, something like that? I'm not sure about any of the dash cams and what kind of inputs and outputs they have. I'm guessing most of them, it would be a pretty convoluted setup to get some live video out of that. But if you're looking for that similar feel, but with a normal video connection, I would look at the Marshall POV weatherproof series. In terms of video quality, it's probably fairly similar to one of the dash cams, but it's going to give you an SDI connection. It's fully waterproof and small form factor, and you could kind of attach that to something on the outside and wire that. Get that cable wired inside, so you have the connections inside. But I'm not entirely sure what you're trying to do, but that's an option.
Courtney.
Yeah, the two mystery things here are vehicle based, so that means it implies that it has to be mobile, so not attached to a cable to inside your house. Do you want to use it while you're driving, or is it just, if you leave your vehicle parked outside to give you a look outside? And for doing that, you'd be better off just mounting something under the eaves of your home that looks outside so it's protected from the weather, unlike anything that's going to be behind a windshield, or have the fact that if you're in an area where there's snow or rain, it could, obliterate your view with raindrops or snow building up in the front of it. So there's that to consider. And a lot of times, if you want, and also you need to think of a wireless connection if you want to stream from it. So a phone, last year's phone is always a good thing. Put it in a holder on the dashboard, and that way you have, if you keep an account open for it, you can link to it and use it to connect to the internet and stream from YouTube, etc., and power itself off of the car's battery. And the other thing to consider is if you can leave your car parked and running with a live feed from the battery to this camera, that it needs to, you need to worry about running down your car's battery. So a big battery will probably be okay to run a phone overnight as long as you're starting that car and recharging the battery occasionally to keep it going. And also, then when the car battery goes dead, you still have the phone battery that'll run it for another several hours at least. So you have that going for you. So that's another idea, is mount your phone in there, set up a streaming thing. You could even automate it to some degree so that you could call it and have it turn on and link to it with some software fashion to take that stream and then put it on the internet.
Next question.
David Paskin from Miami, Florida asks, I know we were playing with Moltbot and now OpenClaw in After Hours the other day, and what did we discover?
Chris Sabato, what did you find out?
I mean, I talked about a little bit about this yesterday, but for me personally, I discovered that it's really cool. It's pretty expensive, and I think we're still unclear, like the actual real use cases, right? Like we've done a lot of things. Like we showed that it can interact. It can interact with Mimo, and it can do really cool things, but what actually will it be used for in real life situations? And I think that's yet to be determined, especially with how expensive and how quickly it racks up costs.
For those of us that weren't there, can you go over what OpenClaw is, and who those of us that don't have a clue what you're talking about? Is
Yeah,
it software? Is it hardware?
It is basically it's a tie-in to Claude, and it's kind of like a bot, right? That uses Claude, and you install it onto your computer, and it has control of your computer. Like, it can run commands on your computer. It has full control of your computer, right? And they can
So it's
do whatever.
an agentic AI that you give permissions on your computer to operate as you.
Yep, and it ties in with there's a handful of chat bots, or not bots, but chat tools. Like, you can tie it into Discord, so you can communicate with it through Discord or through WhatsApp or some of those other things. And it really lets you do, when you can ask Gemini or you can ask Claude like questions and it gives you answers. This, you can ask it to do things and it does those things, which is really cool. But also, I think like I said, it racks up. Like, it is just sitting there doing nothing. It's pinging Claude and so it's using credits, and it adds up pretty quick. I think in the hour that we were there, it got up to like $12-13, something like that, just in an hour. We were maybe pushing it a little harder than you might normally, but it's not going to be $12 an hour over the whole day, but it could be, right? And that becomes pretty expensive, and you could end up with a $500-600 bill pretty easily without paying attention.
Wow. So much is changing in this AI space. It's rather dizzying and hard to keep up with this stuff. Right, let's go to the next question.
All right, the next one comes in from Ball Valhus in Austin, Texas. What's a good mount, or more likely a pair of mounts, for two 43-inch LG quad monitors for a 6-foot rolling heavy slab desk?
Ronnie.
Yeah, so I have these same monitors. They are kind of heavy. I don't think I would ever think of just mounting them the normal way with some thing that you screw to your desk, and I'm probably thinking of having them on a kind of a magic arm or a flexible arm. The weight ratios for most of these arms are not made for these big displays. These displays are made to be mounted a little bit more rigidly to whatever you would choose. And then the budget are coming into play here. Those arms are using a lot of the budgets, and they are kind of big behind the desk. Normally they are not the typical ones that you are just raising them vertically directly up from the desk. And I would go for a version where you are either are mounting it through the desk, really, really rugged, so you have to drill through the desk and have that mounted in a fixed place. Or alternative two, if this is something that is going to be a little bit more flexible, I am looking into something like this, which is, this is just an example from the tools. This is just basically a Visa mount that goes on a C-stand, a classic C-stand. The C-stand could have wheels or just stand on the floor. And this is really a more flexible solution where you can add other stuff as well without getting up to the max weight that these flexible arms normally have. So I would think of a Visa mount to a C-stand adapter, and those Visa mounts can easily be adapted to be used in a grid later on. So if you have a drop from the ceiling, you can just add these Visa mounts to those as well. So this is, I think, a more professional or more kind of production type mounting for these displays. But of course, if you go with a desk mounted one, choose the one where you can actually drill a hole through your desk and have it really, really good mounting on solid mounting point in the desk.
And Courtney?
Yeah, I was going to recommend this one that I just bought that is really pretty beefy, but then I read the specs. As for 32-inch monitors, your monitor's a little bit bigger than that. And this is like Ronnie was saying, it has the opportunity to drill a hole through the desk with this back plate that screws in and holds it. And this is like a 2-inch diameter post that it or 1 3/4 inch, something like that. Then this horizontal arm is fixed at 90 degrees, and this is the only arm that is spring balanced to change the height of the monitor. So that's a possibility, but look at the weight. This is rated for up to 19.9 pounds, and that has to do with the strength of the springs that are cantilevering the weight to adjust its height up and down. And you can put 2 of those arms on one of those posts, but I would suggest 2 separate posts with something that heavy, if and only if the weight is less than 19.2 pounds. If not, then you might have to go for something else that's a little beefier.
Yeah, I have one of these monitors, and I agree, they are pretty heavy. I would never attempt to try to attach these things to a desk. I've got mine on a separate stand. It's actually like a floor stand, and it's bolted into the ground, and it's on a motorized bracket, so I can move it up and down, which is really, really awesome. And I think it only cost me about $300. Go ahead, Ronnie.
Yeah, in addition, if you have 2 of these on the far end of your desk, I would think that it shouldn't take a lot of power to, topple the entire desk, because it will get so top heavy, and that is also mentioned in the chat. I would be really careful of doing 2 of these fixed mounted to a desk. I would put them on either a ceiling grid or floor stands.
Next question.
Next one comes in from Scabo, California. JJ McKenna says, one of my dogs went blind on Thursday. Oh, sorry to hear that. What technovations would you propose for ensuring his quality of life continues to be excellent with his new reality?
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear about that, JJ. That's rough. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, sorry to hear about that. I can commiserate. My dog last month got old dog vestibular disease, which is basically vertigo for a dog. And so now he permanently walks around with his head crooked because he thinks that the world is crooked. And it was really scary at the time. We were ready for it to be the end. And now looking back, it's kind of funny because he basically looked like he was drunk and walking around, and he would just tip over, and he's fine and it doesn't hurt him. And so, he's adjusting, right? And so that's one of the things with pets is that they're better at adjusting to new realities than humans are. And like I said, when it started, he was walking. He could barely stand and slowly got to moving, but he would tip over and fall over. And now he just kind of deals with it. And I think it's hard, but it's just I don't know. As I say that, he just fell over into one of my lights. So if you saw the lights flicker, that was my dog tipping into it. Just keep him happy, and one of the hard things is not getting mad at them because they can't do something that they used to do. And I was like, come on, man, let's go. He's like, no, okay, yeah, right. That's my problem, not yours.
Courtney.
Well, it sounds stupid, but get him a seeing eye dog for your dog, because there was a story on about a puppy that was trained as a seeing eye best friend for a dog that had gone blind. So get him a companion dog that looks out for him. And once they became good friends, you can kind of maybe tie them together, or not tie them together, but, make sure that they stay close to each other so that one could guide the other when you take them out. So you could hook their collars together so that one can lead the other around. So that might be a way to help improve his quality of life and provide friendship for the dog and familiar smells, and give them a great deal of comfort, because fear in the eyes, or in lack of eyes, lack of sight for a dog, it can become very fearful and very defensive. So having another dog there to keep it company that he knows the smell of and knows he's there to look out for him will probably provide a little peace of mind. So get him a seeing eye dog for your blind dog.
Let's go to the next question.
Next question comes in from Guy Cochran in Seattle, Washington. Is a Ronin 4D Easy Rig Prompter Mirri the best solution for a trade show with live interaction?
Ronnie.
Yeah, so we have done multiple tests in this community, and we in Norway when we are traveling to shows, and definitely having some kind of visual gallery coming back to the person you're interviewing on the floor is really, really important, especially if you are talking about office hours production crews that are roaming the show floors around the globe. We did a test this fall in Amsterdam at IBC. We just had an iPad in front of us. Where the people could see the panel that they were actually talking to, and it's really, really important. And having this on a gimbal, which this is mostly about, the DJI, the Ronin, are really, really cool, and these 4Ds are incredibly good. And if you combine that with an easy rig that we tend to do. So for those that doesn't know, an easy rig is kind of a harness that has a pole coming up and in front of you, which takes a lot of the weight away from your hands, and so that you can use that to create a kind of 3-point stabilization for the camera itself, and just help you to have the weight and carry the weight around. And since this is a rig that kind of starts to become a little bit heavy, it's a really good idea to use an easy rig. And easy rig is also used for a lot of other types of production, but of course this is leaning towards the more professional, really, really cool setups. And the only thing I would think of with this one is it's a little bit difficult to get on top of products and show the back sides of them if you can't move your body behind it. So there are other lightweight ways to do this, and we've experimented a lot with everything from Osmo mobile phone stabilizers and those type of action camera rigs, which is of course much lighter, but not that professional. So this 4D is this idea is kind of expensive, but really, really cool to be thinking of. So let's try that.
Courtney.
Yeah, I don't know about having the prompter mounted on the camera itself. I don't think you can do that with the 4D because it's a gimbal mount, and especially with the Easy Rig. This is what Ronnie was talking about with the Easy Rig. You can see where it has this post that comes anchors, and it moves all the weight to your waist, which is really important and something you're going to be running around on your feet all day at a convention. You don't want to have that weight on your shoulder or in your arms, and so that the Easy Rig would be to transfer the weight of that whole rig with the prompter and two-way communications and batteries and everything else to your waist, so that it's more like a backpack weight that you're carrying around with a good waist strap than it is something that you're going to be holding up with your arms or your back, upper back. The other thing about the Ronin 4D is it takes out the bounce when you're walking. So that vertical bounce that everyone has when you walk, it can remove that because of its chicken head. We'll take out that. So it'll stabilize that. So that's great for doing that. The other thing, the advantage the 4D has is it can be remotely operated. So you could have a separate camera operator that's panning and tilting the camera to shoot a cutaway of somebody else or the product, tilt down to the product, so that you don't have to be communicating with the person who is the cameraman. A remote camera person may be even remotable to a distant location, could then control the pan and tilt position of that Ronin remotely. So pan, tilt, and zoom, perhaps. So that's another good thing. I don't know. I think I would have just a separate monitor to use as a prompter for on-camera monitoring for feedback or for confidence monitor on the unit itself so that the person you're interviewing can see somebody remotely on that monitor. But I wouldn't necessarily put a beam splitter on it because I don't think the Ronin can handle any additional weight that's added to the gimbal itself. So that additional monitor would have to be supported off the Easy Rig frame and not off the Ronin's gimbal.
Next question.
Next one comes in from Florence Donald in Silver Spring, Maryland. I picked up a pair of Shokz this week and hoping to be able to connect them to multiple devices at the same time. Does a model exist that fit this use case?
Chris Sabato.
I think what you're asking is, can you send multiple sources of audio to the Shokz at the same time? And I'm pretty sure the answer is no. And I don't think there is anything out there that does that. You would need something further up the chain that combines all those audios to then send it just one connection to the Bluetooth device. If you're talking about just being able to switch between devices, you should be able to do that with the Shokz.
Courtney.
Yeah, you have to. It's a Bluetooth device. You have to pair it with one or more, and it can get difficult when switching between different Bluetooth devices because you have no readout on Shokz. They're just verbal, connected. That's the only indication you get, and you may not know what you're connected to. So it can become problematic to have it connected to multiple things that you switch between. You can't have two together. But what you might do is get a Rodecaster mixer, like a Rodecaster Pro or any of the digital mixers that have built-in Bluetooth, like the Rodecaster does. Even the Rodecaster Video, I think, has that same thing. So that you do your mixing of your different audio sources in the mixer itself, and then you send the output of the mixer via Bluetooth to your Shokz headphones. So that way you can control your mix between comms and program, let's say, in the mixer, then with a wireless connection to your Shokz, as long as you're, within Bluetooth range of that mixer. That will work.
Let's go to the next question.
Comes in from Greenville, Illinois. Kenny Hampton asks, how do Zoom or Teams virtual backgrounds work so well at separating people from cluttered, multicolored backgrounds, even without green screens or perfect lighting?
Ronnie, do they work well?
Well, I was trying before I kind of got live here. I was thinking, how do I put this very well? Because there is a cultural difference between Europe and United States, where if you're going to really criticize something, you just in Norway and Germany, as you might well know, that we are kind of more direct. It does not work at all. It is horrendous to see any version of this. Even if they use a plain, nice lit background, it still doesn't work. And this is because our kind of we are on different planets when we are talking about this. So for normal people in a normal meeting, it seems to work very well. But as soon as you move into the professional way to do these things, we stop thinking of it working really well. And the uncanny valley between you sitting there and watching this background, if it's motion or if it's anything it could be, there is a disconnect between the background you are using and the front the front of the picture where you will probably be. So for most people, it seems okay, but it's really not a professional. And you see this all the time in TV stations and broadcasts and news productions all over the globe. And I would just stop using it. If you're going to use it, just use it as a blur filter, and still then it's not looking good.
Yeah, and before we go to Courtney, I just wanted to mention that Laura Thompson in the chat also brings up a good point that there are still issues with these for people with disabilities. Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, if you're visually impaired, the blur behind you may, trick your brain into thinking that something is wrong. Then everything may become blurry. You can see here if I turn it on me. Usually, it's gotten a whole lot better. It used to be really bad, and especially if you're wearing headphones, and sometimes it can't tell the difference between the background and your headphones.
It
So
has
if you're
problems with
moving-
hands, though. Courtney, do you have an object? This is the problem I have with these. If you are demonstrating a product in your hand, if you start moving your hand with that object, you're going to see it's going to poke through the. Yeah, see, there you go. There's the problem right there.
There's a demonstration.
There's the problem right there. So
you
don't
can't tell
do
that
product
if I have it in front of my
training
face, it's okay because it figures out what it does now is does a difference, Matt. It does a difference. It figures out what pixels are moving and which ones aren't. And then it creates a mat based on the pixels that are moving. But then once it defines your body shape, then anything else that is not your body shape confuses it, like this thing that I'm holding in my hand right now. If I put it in front of me, you see it. If I move it away, it becomes invisible. So, there's that. Let me turn it off. It annoys me.
Everyone's getting a headache now. We got to turn
when
off
people
the
do
virtual
that
background.
blur. If they blur the background, and then you think you're going blind. It's not good because the blur is unnatural. It's not a natural type bokeh that you see behind me. It's, because it would never have this much depth of field with that much out of focus behind me, just a few feet behind me. So it's not a naturalistic type bokeh, and it confuses the brain and makes me nauseous to watch as well.
Yeah, and something about never, ever have virtual backgrounds. All right, let's go to the next question.
From Aaron Cody in St. Louis, Missouri. What VPN and or remote desktop software are you using for remote production tasks which are not bandwidth intensive?
Chris Sabato.
For VPN in general, I'm using Global Protect. I don't have much say in that. That's from Palo Alto. That's what our IT provides. For remote desktop, I'm using Splashtop. I've been really happy with Splashtop. I think it works great. It's responsive. It's quick. It's good quality. It's very affordable. I think I pay somewhere around $200 a year and get 20 computers I can add to that that I can remote into. And then for kind of like one-off specialty VPN things, I'm using Tailscale. And again, the free version has been enough for me. And I've just started poking into some Cloudflare stuff. We'll see. That's a little more. Tailscale was much easier to set up for me, but I think the Cloudflare stuff might be more powerful. So I'm starting to dig into that a little bit.
Go ahead, Ronnie.
Yeah, definitely Cloudflare is the more professional way to do it, but Tailscale is something that we have been using for a long time. And we are using Tailscale and another solution I will be mentioning in a few minutes when I'm finished answering. So what we are using with Tailscale is that we have that installed on our GL iNet routers. So we have something that we can just have in a small rack connected to the internet, and then everything behind this router is actually we can reach it from wherever we are that are using the same Tailscale system. So we can be in the studio in the master control room, or we can be out on the floor, and we can see all these stuff. And that is especially cool if you are doing syncing of files, etc. And we have to kind of traverse the venue's security, and this is a good thing to do. And all the things that are behind this GL iNet router is actually just being handled as a local system kind of. We cannot have the 8 control functions going back and forth. I think that protocol is a little bit too chatty and probably will not work good. But if you're doing easier stuff and have easier software controls going through these tunnels, it will work perfectly. The other thing we are doing, and this is more on the bigger things like more stable solutions, is that we are using Unify's or Ubiquity's Magic Link mesh network, which is actually just a really, really easy option that you enable in your routers. And currently, I'm at home now in my home office. I have a Unify, I think it's a fiber, so the UCG fiber router. Bridge to the fiber modem, and then I just go in, click which networks are going to be seeing each other, and it takes a few seconds, and the network is up and running. The only bad thing about using Ubiquity for this is that you need to be the owner of both sites, or all 3 or 5 or 9 sites, to be able to switch this functionality on. So if you're not in control of the remote location you're going to be putting this equipment in, Ubiquity is probably not the solution. But if you own your own equipment and can have everything mapped to your own master account, all the employees can be able to add these functionality to any of the routers that you have in your network. So we are in the phase of transitioning into using Ubiquity's or Unify routers in all our mobile racks so that we can have them a part of the network. And that is a really, really powerful solution for us.
And Chris Abato.
Yeah, I use the GLI nets too. Actually, this box right here is one that I've just been working on, that I plan to deploy as a remote play-by-play kit. And so it's just a little 4U case that everything's inside of it. It's got a monitor, it's got a little computer in it, it's got the GLI net. And so I plug that in at a remote venue, and then everything in that case and everything that gets plugged into that is all on our tail. And so I can access everything behind it. I don't have to set up each one of the things about Tailscale is, like, to connect computer A to computer B, each one's got to have its own client, right? So with the GLI net, you're just installing that client on the router, and then everything past the router is accessible, and it just makes things super easy. And I'm super excited to kind of get it going. The only caveat is what I found out is I have to disable the Wi-Fi on the GLI net because it gives me an awful hum in my audio equipment. But other than that, it's been great.
And Cornery.
I was going to have a question for Chris, since he says he was using Splashtop. That is a subscription model. It's like $22 per month, payable in advance for a year, I think. And how many copies now does that allow you to? Do you have to have it on both computers, and do you have to pay a license for both computers, or does one license allow you to connect to one computer? As long as a client and a host are then installed on each of those computers. And if you have more than one client to access that host, do you have to pay for a separate license for each client that accesses it, although it's done separately?
So you have you pay the subscription I have started. I think it was a little over $100 a year is what I paid, and that gives me one Splashtop user account. And I can install Splashtop then on 10 machines. I've since upgraded to the next version, which gives me 2 accounts that I can then install on 20 machines. And so when I pull up my Splashtop interface, I have up to 20 computers that I've installed the client on that I can click into and access any of those computers. And I can, if I'm logged in on that account here, I can be remoted into, I don't know that there's a limit of how many I can actually remote into at the same time, but it's definitely I can do at least 3 because I've done that. But if I'm logged in, if I'm on this computer logged in remotely to another computer, and I'm on another computer, I can't then remote into a additional computer. I can only be
a third computer.
Yeah, I can only be sending out remote connections from one spot at the same time.
A single host and then multiple clients.
And multiple clients, right.
Right.
But that's why, because I've upgraded, I've got the second account, so I can actually log into the second account and do that if I need to, right? But yeah.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that.
Okay, let's see if we can get one or two more questions in. Just a reminder, too, if you'd like to support the show, Office Hours, I'm a little late with this announcement here. You can do that by, there's actually several ways. You can volunteer. The show's entirely volunteer-driven. If you'd like to know how you can support the show, you can go to officehours.global/volunteer and take a look at some of the roles that are available to sign up for. And of course, you can donate by going to officehours.global/donate. Let's sneak in one quick question here.
Last one comes in from Zach Stallsmith in Chautauqua, New York. Zach asks, I would like to get serious about having ZoomISO in my setup that I can offer to clients. I have a Mac Mini M4 in my mobile rack, which includes a Behringer X32. Can I mix individual participants' audio on the X32 channels?
So the question is on the X32, Zach, if you have the Dante module in stock. I don't use ZoomISO, but presumably it should work with any class-compliant audio interface. So if you have something like Dante Virtual Sound Card and you've got the X32 Dante module in there, you should be able to pipe out audio feeds out of any application on Mac OS, including ZoomISO, hopefully. If somebody thinks I'm wrong, please chime in, but you can use Dante Virtual Sound Card to get ISO audio out, and then you would route that into the channels on the console, you would mix it there, and then you may want to just mix that down to a stereo mix that you would just pipe into whatever production software you're using. With Mimo Live, which is what I use, I take all the ISO audio feeds out of that and I mix that in my DM3 over Dante. Then that gets mixed down to a stereo track, which then goes back into the computer, into the same machine, and then out to program. Ronnie?
I just second what you said. It's working perfectly. We do that all the time.
There we go. All right. Thank you to all the panelists for answering all these excellent questions here. And of course, to you, the producers, for bringing all these questions to us today. We sincerely appreciate it. We had lots of lively chat today. It was great to see all of you for Saturday, but that is all the time we have for today. And of course, the back-end crew, we'd like to thank you for the work that you do every single day to put on these shows. It's a lot of work, and it is a thankless job. So thank you very, very much. If we were to travel around the world to answer all these questions according to the Talalic Traversal, it would have been, where are my numbers here? 15,000 miles, that's 24,000 kilometers, and 116 million bananas for scale. And just a reminder, we will be doing Ruthless Reviews in After Hours at 8:30 a.m. Pacific. That's in about 30 minutes from right now. So if you'd like to have or participate in that and have everybody pick apart and utterly obliterate your video and audio chain, please join us in After Hours. All right, we'll see you. Bye.
That was a good show. Courtney, you have to.
I'm in Norway.
I love your
Look.
background.
Look, I'm in Norway.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
Is that what it looks like out the window?
Here come the headaches. The ice
is so
picks.
cool.
Ice picks in my brain. Ice picks in my brain.
Everybody knows that you are in a sunny state where the temperatures are far away from where this light is showing. That is so
All right, good show, everybody.
perfect.
Thanks
Thanks
guys.
for being here.
See you.
Enjoy your day. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.